I think the importance of leadership is undervalued on our teams. I see it on a lot of people's teams. You have your one primary person at the top and they build these organizations and they're struggling to scale. I have a client recently that has a $5 million business. And she's struggling to scale. And I look across her organization.
Here we are. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're super excited to have Misty Williams here. She is like the queen of operations, hiring. Like when I first jumped into the DR world, everybody told me like Misty is the person you need to talk to and meet. She's the one who knows everybody and knows how to get things done. So I'm really excited to have Misty here talking to us about hiring and onboarding and keeping team accountable and productive. You know, she has 4 businesses now, including the Marketing Connective that brings marketing talent to DR businesses from the Philippines, but also, you know, she's heavy in the IM marketing party and so many more. Able to do, you know, all of this with very little overwhelm or no overwhelm and help people feel empowered and accountable to get things done. So thanks so much for joining us here, Misty. It's really great to have you today.
I'm excited to be here and it's fun to see some familiar faces on this live with us too.
Oh yeah, we got some goodies.
Do some shout outs.
Hi, everybody. Rob, what's up? We had Rob on last week.
Tracy.
Got Tracy in here. Tracy. Hello. Erin Jardine. She's another operations fella over here. And Robin, what's up? Hello. Oliver, you made it. Super excited to have you. Glad you were able to pop in.
Awesome. Great to see everyone.
Good to see you all. So yeah, hello everybody. Happy Friday. Misty, I'd love to hear a little bit from you about, you know, what got you into this space and, you know, what do you really love about it? And just, yeah, I'd love to just hear a little bit about your background and experience in this world.
I actually backed into it. I started my career in Nashville doing artist management, which was really fun, but there was no money in it. And I pivoted. This was like 1999, y'all, 2000, 2001. I'm old. But I pivoted and started working with speakers and authors. And then I had a health crisis in 2011 that was very scary. And I started seeing that our medical system isn't really designed to help us heal and get well. And I knew I was on my own if I was going to figure it out, and started diving into the work of a lot of people in the paleo space at the time, and got a client that lived in Nashville and was the opening keynote for the very first Paleo FX, and kind of backed into the space that way. You know, I needed help for myself, and I also had a skill set that really worked for a lot of the influencers that basically founded the movement back in the day, and found my way to Austin to be closer to my family. I had no idea that Austin was so awesome. And when I got here, I started meeting the most amazing people, including David Gonzalez over at Internet Marketing Party. And I got really involved in the community here. And I met Michelle Norris, and she's the co-founder of Paleo FX, and ended up working with Paleo FX for several years. I took over a lot of their marketing, all their marketing and some of their operational stuff, like managing budgets and installing KPIs and, you know, all the things you need to do to be profitable. Paleo FX have been running in the red for a few years in a row. And we got that company in the black, and kind of the rest is history. I mean, I've done lots and lots in our space now and built $1 million affiliate programs. And I always find myself kind of at this convergence of marketing and operations in everything I do. You know, my skill set lends itself to that. But marketing has been my passion forever. So yeah, it's a big playground. You know, when you get in direct response, there's so many things you can do. I feel like I've kind of dipped my toe in a lot of waters, and like you, I have a great Rolodex of people that I can call on when different challenges or opportunities arise. And I've been able to really get a lot of leverage by learning to manage team well. Team was actually the bane of my existence for a long time. I was doing these cycles of burnout. I'm sure no one else has ever been there before. And I eventually, after a really epic burnout that almost took me out, it was 2016. And I remember just being so scared that this was going to be it. I wasn't going to be able to bounce back from this one. And I started learning some key dynamics that make team work really well, I started realizing some things that I do as a woman that are programmed into women, that kind of keep us from being able to really excel as leaders. And it really revolves around how to get support and how to set up support to work in an organization so that leadership is supported and there's traction and you're not experiencing burnout. So, everything I know is forged through fire. I wish I was the person that just got the great mentorship early in my career. And that's how I learned what I know, but I just have been drugged behind so many drugs. And I'm figuring some things out at this stage, which is nice. And I'm grateful. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Heck yeah. And honestly, that's how you figure out the best ways too. It's those lessons you learn through the more difficult times, and best ways to kind of work through those and avoid those for the future. So, sharing that experience and those lessons with us and with anybody is super valuable. I really, really appreciate that. And that's interesting, your story of the burnout and everything in the past, and really finding, this health space as well, because I do know that you work with a lot of kind of health brands too. So, it's crazy that we kind of push ourselves to that burnout level without really intentionally or leveraging the team to get there. And I know that you've really kind of found more of that, or to get out of it, I guess, but you found more of that balance of how to really leverage a team and how to empower them to be accountable and help you so that you can, have your finger in so many things. You've worked with a lot of people, you've got a lot of businesses going. I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you really leverage your team and hold them accountable to get things done for you.
Yeah, well, maybe I can unpack a little bit my big learnings coming out of 2016, because I almost feel like that was a demarcation point in my career, because, for those of you that know human design, I'm a manifesting generator, and that means I just have a lot of energy to get things done. I've always been a really independent person. I've been able to take on a lot of responsibility and make things happen. I grew up in a home where I'm the oldest of four, and anyone else who's the eldest probably knows a lot of what comes with that, especially if you have a big family. And my mom started counting on me at a very young age to basically help her run the household. I was cooking and cleaning and watching my sisters. My mom and dad would leave me when I was 7 years old with my two younger sisters, and they would go run errands. And now I look back and I see my nieces and nephews at 7, and I think my parents were really crazy. I would never leave my nieces and nephews with their siblings, but there was something probably imprinted on me, and the necessity of just not having a lot of resources, to bring in sitters, and really needing someone to look out for the girls while, they were out shopping, put me in a position really young where I just took on a lot of responsibility. It felt very natural to me. I got a lot of love and connection and validation from taking on responsibility and doing a really good job for my mom, especially. So, becoming an entrepreneur and moving into this space, I was someone that people felt like, wow, I can really trust her. She's going to get this done for me. I also have a projection field in human design, which means people project a lot of expectations, which can actually be a really hard thing to manage. I've had to learn to manage that in my career with just a lot of communication. Here's what I'm going to be responsible for. Here's what you're going to be responsible for, and, really kind of mapping that out. But in 2016, before I was really conscious of a lot of this little T trauma that I experienced when I was younger, I remember just feeling like I know I'm doing something, but I can't see it. I know that there's something that I'm doing that's creating this, because this was the second or third big cycle in a row, every year, bam, bam, bam. Mm-hmm. And I was listening to a talk from Allison Armstrong. I believe it's in her audio program called Celebrate Partnership, which is wonderful. I highly recommend it. But she was talking about the energetic dance between masculine, feminine, you could say, but we all have masculine, feminine in us. So the masculine, feminine isn't as significant as the energetic imprint of that. So masculine is accountable. It's provider. Masculine energy is what's directional and get something done. And feminine energy is supporter, enhancer, supporting that masculine or supporting that provider, accountable energy and getting things done. But supporter, enhancer energy is accountable for nothing. And I'm listening to her talk about this and realizing what I've done with my teams. I have made myself the one that is accountable in the organization for everyone. I had a team of 12 or 13 people at the time. I had a big team. And everybody else was basically in the supporter energy. I did not know how to delegate responsibility to other people. I took it on. That's just, it was like this subconscious wiring in me. And when I started seeing, oh my God, this is what I'm doing. I'm making myself accountable for everything, and everybody else is in supporter energy. And I'm also, to the best of my ability, being supporter for all of them, because I want them to be accountable, but I don't know how to create the relationship and dynamic for them to be. So you can see why I'm burning myself out. I'm just exhausted. So I started going to the team and trying to renegotiate the relationship, and it didn't work with any of them. It didn't work. I couldn't get anyone to kind of start stepping up and doing more. I got a lot of resistance and pushback that made me feel like I just had to terminate. And I had my largest client poached at that time by someone on my team, which was really devastating, not just from a financial perspective, but a betrayal perspective. I felt really, really betrayed. I started being with this idea, and being with the part of me that didn't know how to make other people, how to form relationships with other people where they were really accountable. And it became my mission to crack this code and figure this out. In the next couple of years, I started learning how to negotiate all my relationships differently. And one of the things that I do with team now that has been so life-changing is I push accountability down. I coach my clients to push accountability down. I coach my leaders on my team, because now I'm actually not the primary leader on the team. I mean, obviously I'm the owner, but I do have other people in place that are holding everyone else accountable, and I teach them to push accountability down. And it's really life-changing. You get people way more invested in what you're doing. The creme de la creme definitely rises to the top, and we're more of a team together. So this, accountable energy and supporter energy and the dynamics at play are a really important area of mastery, I think, when you're leading a team, because people need to, first of all, get clear on what they're accountable for. They need to be enrolled, right? And we try to do that from the very beginning. Here's what you're accountable for. And then we try to do the things that reinforce that this is what you're accountable for. I mean, I have a chief of staff and an assistant for my chief of staff that watches and makes sure people are logging in on time. They're putting in their hours. They're sending in their daily recaps every day. They're sending us a notification if they go on break. We're a remote team, and probably most of the people in DR are direct response are remote, right? So we have these things in place to provide accountability around what they should be being responsible for, so that we just reflect back to them. Hey, you logged in late today, just reminding you that if you're going to log in late, you need to send us a notification. We actually have templates for all of this stuff inside of Slack. And then people start learning from the time they join the team that here's the expectations, here's how I'm expected to perform. They take responsibility for getting support if they need it. That's another thing that I used to struggle with a lot, is I would assign something, they would be unclear, so they just wouldn't do it. And after the deadline is passed, I'm asking about it. Oh, well, I didn't have all the pieces for that, or I wasn't sure about that, but they don't take responsibility for asking for help and support. So we provide lots and lots of coaching around that. And it's life-changing, because as a leader, you can breathe. I was also, during that time, I had appointed a couple of leaders, and they were burning out. Everybody goes into burnout mode when, as a leader, you're the only one who's accountable. So that was big. It's probably the most transformative lesson that I've learned when it comes to managing a team. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's huge. And I know that you've talked to me before about the masculine and feminine energies and balancing those, but also like you're saying, utilizing that to really keep the team accountable and to do these negotiations and conversations and have all this kind of set up. How did you, what are some of the tools that you use to really dive into that further and understand and be able to kind of utilize those dynamics?
Well, it starts with our onboarding. We have a team member guidebook that we actually go through the key points in onboarding. We don't just give someone and say, read this, sign for it. I want clarity and certainty that people they've gone through a review, so that we know that we had a conversation with them that we can refer to later. So it really starts in the very beginning. Like, here's the expectations. Here's how we do things. This is what we expect of you. Here's where you find your responsibilities. If something is assigned to you within the first 24 hours, your responsibility is to review that. And if you have questions, to ask them. We do a lot of check-ins with people in the very beginning. Like the first week, we do a daily check-in. We'll do that again the second week if they need it. Otherwise, we'll move to every other day. And the point of that is, if people are having questions or struggles in the very beginning, that we're providing the support they need and we're conditioning them to ask for support. So that's been a pivotal, life-changing part of running a team, is really teaching people that it is your responsibility to ask for support. And if you ask for it, you're going to get it. We're very, very consistent with giving the support that people need. So it starts at onboarding. I find that if you don't onboard well, like say things are chaotic in the organization, you're really overloaded, you're hiring someone to give you some relief, you really don't have much time to do the proper onboarding with them. Very often those people will end up not working out in the long run because that conditioning didn't happen from the very beginning, right? So they didn't come in with very clear expectations that were reinforced. So I think that's a big part of our secret sauce, is onboarding tightly and making sure that we're being consistent in what we review. I actually have an admin on our team that has a list of benchmarks that she reviews to make sure everyone's following. We use time doctors, so everyone on my team tracks their time. So we can see if someone's not being productive, which that's not as much. I mean, every now and then, especially with the new hire, you want to make sure that, they're not working on other projects on the clock and, whatever. But I just love that people can bill their time to different projects. So we get a breakdown of what time things are taking, and we're able to optimize workflows that way. We also get the daily recap at the end of every single day. And we ask questions in the recap, like, what did you work on today? Did you get behind on anything today? Where do you need support? How many hours did you put in today? How did your time break down? We're asking these questions because I want to be able to review. I still review all of our daily recaps, but so do my leaders from the team. It helps keep everyone in the loop on what's happening. And then if I'm in a situation where this actually recently happened, where I'm like, my designer, what is she doing on this project? I haven't heard anything. I expected it to be turned in today, but we're at the end of the day. I haven't gotten anything yet. I go back to her daily recaps before I go to her, and I can see, is she putting time in on this, right? If she's not putting time in, the first place I went actually wasn't to the designer. I went to my leader and I said, hey, was this tracked for her? Do we have this actually tracked inside of Trello? That's what we use to make sure that it's in her workflow. Sometimes I'll find out that something didn't get tracked, which actually isn't the team member's fault. It's a leadership issue if we're not tracking well. And that also helps me to not go, bring the heavy to somebody on the team for not getting something done. I have a conversation with my leader about it and say, hey, this wasn't tracked. Here's my expectation. It's not being met. And then that's pretty much all I have to say on my team. And, my team leader is on it. So, I think it's a culture that you create for high performance and accountability. And it starts the day you hire someone. It's reinforced in the first 30 days that they're on their team with you. I think it's just a crucial time frame of, getting someone in sync, and the magic is in the consistent leadership, really.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I like, the way that you kind of do those recaps, and then that you're making sure to review those, because that also gives you you can see where people are getting stuck, and you can stop things, before they become a big problem and a big fire. And then also having those leaders that you go to, instead of you being like, hey, where is this? It kind of positions you so you're not that not necessarily hammer, but it feels different.
It's a buffer for the team. I'm a fiery Leo. I can get a little hot. So yeah, it's a great buffer for the team, to have another leader in place that can handle things. And we have a performance planning framework, if someone is slipping, that we use, that was also very transformative. I actually hit up a friend of mine who is from corporate America. At the time she was working for Jenny Craig, and she was a district leader. I think that's what they call it, or regional leader. I don't know, but she managed maybe 6 different stores. And I was watching her lead against KPIs in a way that was really inspiring and like, wow, this is how leaders should be leading. You know, she's looking at the KPIs in an organization and holding people accountable to the KPIs and then reinforcing the performance aspects, you know, that make that hitting that KPI possible. And she shared her framework with me, which was really, really powerful. So that's what my leaders use, is this performance framework. And it's a really wonderful framework. I mean, basically it's, when you're having a performance conversation with someone, you know, they're underperforming in some way. Some people call it corrective action. I don't like that language. It's really intimidating and shaming. And, you know, people already feel bad enough if they're doing something wrong without, you know, having it cloaked in a shameful frame. So we just call it our performance template. And the conversation is state your positive intent. You know, I'm having this conversation with you because I really want to make sure that you're getting the hang of being on our team, of what's expected of you on the team. I want you to be successful, you know, could be one of the positive intent. There's actually so many ways you can find a positive intent. Even when you're piss and vinegar, you can find some kind of positive intent. And it's really important that you do that as a leader to start the conversation off. Here's my observation. Here's what I'm seeing happening. And then it's just data, right? So I'm noticing that in your daily recaps, you're showing that you're doing 6 hours in a day. And I don't see that that's broken out properly. I'm only seeing 2 projects that you're billing your time to, or, you know, whatever, maybe you're doing a correction on them not putting their hours in. So here's what I'm seeing. What I'm seeing could be something that's happening in Slack. What I'm seeing could be something that's happening or not happening with the workflow. You know, maybe they need to be submitting something for approval by a certain time, and maybe that's not happening. But the idea is just to state what's happening without any judgment, without opining about it. This is what I see happening. Here's the impact of that. So the impact is, you know, if it is for, you know, some kind of project that was due today, and say you didn't get the first draft 2 days prior, like you were supposed to, and you're just getting the first draft today, the impact of that is we don't have time now to do the rounds of changes and still meet this deadline. And by not meeting the deadline, here's the impact of that, right? Here's the impact. Now we're behind on this. Here's what it's going to do to your teammates' workflow who needed this completed. And now they're getting behind, and they actually have other deadlines that they're also trying to meet. So you really try to paint the picture of whatever the impact is of, you know, whatever you're conversing with them about. And then you give them some space to talk. What do you think about all this? What's coming up for you as I'm sharing this with you? And you just let them talk. You'll find out all sorts of things. Sometimes you find out there's things going on in the organization you didn't even know were going on. Sometimes you might find out that things aren't getting assigned to the person. You know, well, this was never tracked for me. I didn't know what the date was. And then you get the opportunity to listen. And if there is something that needs to be corrected that actually isn't this person's issue, you know, corrective action issue, it's actually somebody else's, you can kind of land the plane right here and say, I'm going to go talk to them. Let's put a pin in this conversation and we'll get back to it. Now you've kind of pivoted away from, you know, you've done something wrong, to what I'm committed to is figuring out how to fix this. So I'm going to go talk to the other person, right? If they listen to everything that you've said and they're like, yeah, I hear what you're saying, I haven't done a good job with that. Or, you know, they take responsibility, which is something I want to see. When people aren't taking responsibility in these situations, it's typically, you're not going to last very long on my team, because how can I push accountability down if people don't want to take responsibility, right? So then what does that mean? That means the leader is going to have to be responsible for someone else's workflow, and it's going to impact how my leaders can lead, because now they're micromanaging and making sure people get things done. So after they have the opportunity to share their perspective, it's all right, what are we going to do about this? And we put a plan together, right? If the person comes up with a plan that you feel good about as a leader, that's the ideal situation. They don't always know how to solve the problem, but if they can, you know, you want to give them some space to solve the problem. And if they can't, if they don't know what to do, then as a leader, you're going to come up with a plan that's going to help them and support them in being successful. And part of that plan might be, as a leader, I'm going to do daily check-ins with you and make sure that we've got this on track, to make sure that you're getting your feet under you, to make sure you're getting the support from other people. We're going to do daily check-ins for a while. or we're going to have an extra meeting once a week and we're just going to go over this stuff. Or, if you have any trouble with this area, reach out to me. Leaders need to step up with more support during that time and make sure that we're setting the person up to be successful. And the first time we have this conversation, it's just a conversation that gets documented in Slack. I'm looped in, so they know Misty knows. And then the second time they sign it. So this framework has been really powerful for us because it shines a light for the team member on the things that are important for them to do to be successful. And it lets them know, oh, this was a serious conversation. This wasn't just a coaching aside. We'd really appreciate it if you did this, right? This was you need to do this. And here's what we expect of you. And you're signing it, right? So kind of like exclamation point on the end. But that performance framework has been so helpful. So, you onboard well, you have a good performance framework, you're coaching people up. On my team, if someone's not going to work out, usually it's within the first 30 to 60, sometimes they'll make it 90 days. But if they're not the kind of performer we're looking for, if we can't get the best out of them, I'm not going to have my leader spending all their time coaching someone, like we'll give you some coaching, but I expect you to fly. And if you're not going to fly, then we're just going to find the person that's going to do great on the team. And no one likes firing. I hate firing. I'm so glad I'm not the person that does it anymore on the team. I hate it when Avril, my girl, has to do it, but we aren't shy about doing it. If someone's not working out, they're not working out. I have a team of high performers and they want to be on a team of high performers, right? It's really challenging to tell everyone, here's our expectations as a team. This is the level that we're committed to performing at. And then they watch us tolerate underperformance from their team members. The team sees it, even in a remote setting. They see when someone's underperforming, they're affected by it certain ways. They see the output, so I'm really wanting to reinforce that this is something we're committed to. But the ones that make it past 90 days I think of them as lifers. They don't go anywhere. We have them on the team for years, which is really the ideal situation for a leader. They learn, they grow with us. We move them into new positions. It's really fantastic. But this framework really did change my life. And it helped me to attract leaders that didn't burn out and quit. I'm sure there's a lot of people that can relate to that too. You bring people on and they're really awesome and they're performing at such a high level, but they're burning themselves out to do it. And it's just not sustainable for them. So, I think this is valuable for all of us to learn if we want to have teams that go the distance and we want to be able to, really build something that's special. I think great onboarding and good performance planning is a key part of that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's huge. And I know that you told me before, like in your onboarding, like you have it so dialed in that, like you said, they don't usually make it past the first 30, 60, sometimes 90 days. Maybe 30 or 40% won't make it past that, but the ones who do stay with you for years. And that is huge because the cost of hiring can sometimes be like 2 or 3 times what an average salary is, So it's so
the time,
important.
it's the time cost too. It really sucks even for us when, someone comes on the team and they don't work out and we have to replace them again. I mean, it's the time drain that's really hard, it gets behind. The team has to pick up more slack, so I know it's an extra burden on them too. There's a lot to be said for putting in the extra effort in the hiring process to bring in the right people. And I feel like we are some of the best at that and we still don't always nail it. We still will have people come on the team that just don't quite hit it. We had someone on the team it was time for her 90-day review. And I'd been telling Avril for the previous few weeks, like, I don't feel like her heart's in this. There was a few things that happened along the way that just showed us that she wasn't the person that I wanted, basically taking care of my high ticket program. Like she just wasn't being the caregiver mama bear that I wanted, and, as much as you try to vet all that stuff out in the beginning, sometimes it's not until you get someone, on the team and performing that you can really see that they're not going to be what you expected. And it's always better to fire fast. It really is. It's hard on the rest of the team seeing someone get fired. It's a lot easier for them to see them get fired if they've been on the team like a month or two and they can see they just kind of didn't make it, versus I've had a relationship with them for 6 months or a year, where they're actually friends and, have been in the trenches, in the war together, fighting the battle together. and then you fire them, that's really sucky for everyone. So it's never going to be easy to fire, but you should do it fast.
Yeah, I agree. Especially like, the kind of like the morale and everything that you're creating. It's like you said, like the A players want to work with other A players. They want other people who are accountable and held responsible, because somebody being delayed pushes their work back and, pushes the rest of the team back, and it makes the entire team look not great. Like it paints everybody in a negative picture and puts a lot of pressure on them. So it's not fair. So that fast firing, I think, is really important. Like you also, have a really great structure for the performance framework and everything. So I'm curious, like, how often do you go through like performance reviews after they've done that 90-day?
Well, we do a performance review at 30 days, 90 days, and then every 6 months. So everyone in the company gets one. So they're used to having performance reviews, so even when we do performance planning, it's just kind of part of our culture that we're reviewing and documenting and paying a lot of attention to performance, right? So everyone just knows it. We don't have the culture where you only get a performance plan when you're about to get fired. That's definitely not our culture. But most people get performance planning in the first 30 days because there's something that they're slipping on, right? So, and we might even say it a couple of times and then have to give it to them in writing. It isn't that uncommon for someone to even get 2 or 3 performance plans in the first 30 days, because there's just different areas that they're having to get right. We're not heavy-handed about our performance planning unless someone's getting the exact same performance plan for the exact same thing, and they're just not doing what they need to do. Then we'll start saying, hey, listen, we've talked about this. I reviewed the entire process with you. I made sure that you were fully trained on this. At this point, it just seems like you're just not doing it. So you have a choice to either start doing it, or we're going to have to replace you. I mean, that's the conversation we'll have after the second performance plan. But if it's just the first performance plan, that we're having with someone, I don't want people to be scared of performance planning. That's not the point. Isn't to make them afraid. The point is to call to the part of them that wants to do well and excel, and give them the feedback they need to do that. That's really the point of performance planning. So I don't really get the sense on my team that people resent it or are scared of it or anything like that, but we do it very consistently. I mean, even people that we love that have been on the team for a long time, if they start slipping, they get a performance plan. Like Avril and I try to be very agnostic about it and super consistent, because we've just found that the consistency makes leadership easier. Being really consistent about it and not tolerating things, even if you've been with us a year or a year and a half, 3 years, it doesn't matter. We're going to be really consistent in our performance planning, and that consistency reduces our stress, reduces the chance for burnout, gets people to tighten things up that they need to get tightened up. It sends a clear message that even though we're friends, because you build relationships even as a leader with your teammates and you get really friendly with them. Even though we're friends, this is how we do things. We're going to be consistent, and our team appreciates and respects it, and they know, and things get tightened up typically. And we're able to keep the train on the tracks. So yeah, consistency is super important, and we do it a lot, and don't be afraid to do it a lot, especially in the beginning.
I think that's huge, because you're also like giving them feedback of like what is working and like what they can, do more of, and as well as like ways to, you're helping them with ways to troubleshoot what's not working and ways that they can kind of work around that, so that they are delivering what you're looking for. So I think that's huge. And you've, shared a lot about what you really use to manage your remote team. And I know that's one of the questions we had is like, what else do you kind of see, with so many remote teams now, like what else do you see that really helps keep people in line and on track and working together, especially collaboratively and accountable like this?
Yeah. We do one-on-ones with every team member every week. This was massive for us because everyone is siloed, working in their offices by themselves, checking in on Slack. There wasn't real relationships being formed on the team. And I think that also plays a part in the loyalty that you get from people, if they feel really connected, personally or not. So our leaders do one-on-ones with their teams every week. I have Avril, who is kind of a chief of staff COO role for me. She make sure that she does one-on-ones at least once a month. What this does is it creates space for the relationship, gives people an opportunity to ask for the support they need, share what's on their mind. If they have something going on in their personal life that's really heavy and hard, this is the time they can share about it so that we have some visibility into what's going on. So it manages our expectations too. Maybe it gives us an extra dose of compassion for them and understanding when we start seeing certain things. I mean, we'll still be consistent about our feedback, but it's, really helpful from a relational perspective. And it also gives us an opportunity to do a performance plan that's just during our one-on-one time, so that it's not like the boss put call on the calendar for us, and then it feels scary every time, because we're just consistent with our one-on-ones. And sometimes on occasion, there's a performance plan, in the one-on-one, but that's definitely not always the case. We try to just be consistent with building the relationship, and that really helps. I have teams in the Philippines. Starting in about 2017, started working with Filipino hires, and I've really mastered the whole framework for hiring out of the Philippines. First of all, it's very, very economical. You can save 80 to 90% per role, and you can hire a lot of great roles in the Philippines. So we started saving a lot of money working in the Philippines, but we also found that they were hard workers and that you could get really great talent there. They're educated. Most of them have college degrees. They start studying English at a young age. It's a very Americanized culture. So there's just a lot of perks to working with people in the Philippines. But, there are some differences. I like having a leader that's from the Philippines for them, because I want them to feel really comfortable. And we also get the team together. We have a stand-up every Monday. The whole team comes together and we just update on what we've been working on, what we've got coming up. And if we need any support, if I have any announcements or anything to share with the team, then I'll share it during those calls too. And then the team has a retrospective call toward the end of the week, on Thursday or Friday, depending on the team. But during the retro, they can just, how are things going? Anything come up that you need support on, just make sure that they haven't gone several days and they're not quite getting what they need through Slack. So I don't participate in the retro calls, but I do in the stand-up for a couple of my teams. One team, I don't do any of the calls. I just, I'm on with Avril quite frequently, and that's obviously awesome for me. But I do think bringing the team together is really valuable. We have we call it the Filipino team meeting, where everyone from all of our teams, they get together. They're able to speak in their native language. They don't have to speak English. All the rest of the meetings, they have to speak English. And it's really just a connection time. It's 30 minutes. I'm obviously paying for that, but they get together maybe once a month at least, maybe twice a month. And just do check-ins with each other. They plan get-togethers, meetups there in the Philippines, which is really great for their relationships. And they, really just try to build camaraderie that way. So those are the kind of things that you can do. Even it doesn't matter if your team's in the Philippines or not. I really think that people need to connect with their boss, and they need to feel like they matter, and the opportunity to, get together and collaborate, to all be on calls together is really important. Everyone on the team works well together independently. And that wasn't always the case because the relationship wasn't there. But, regardless of if we have a group meeting or not, people feel comfortable reaching out to each other, working together. They set up their own meetings with each other because we've created this container where we foster relationship and connection. And we really emphasize supporting each other and asking for what you need. So it makes my heart happy to see the team doing stuff like that, and to also, see my leaders, kind of perpetuating what I really value, really embodying that for the team. That really makes me happy too as a leader. And I just love seeing that my teams are happy. They're collaborating together. They're happy in their work. I give them a lot of support, and in turn, we get a lot from them. So
I think that's huge. Like, you're building the culture and community, and love that they're doing meetups and getting to connect in that way. It just makes such a big difference because, we are working remotely and it can get lonely, and it's nice to really have that kind of collaboration and just feel a connection to these people outside of just these Slack messages or, standard meetings of this is the details of what's going on. So I think that's really cool that you guys do that. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I would say too, sometimes there's concern when you're hiring out of the Philippines or any offshore place. I know there's a lot of pockets of great talent all over the world that we're tapping in direct response. I integrate my teams together. I don't want the people that I'm working with in the US to kind of see my Filipino team as the B team, because they're really not the B team. They're the A team, and we're all working together. So I try to create opportunities for a lot of collaboration. Most of my team is in the Philippines now. Whenever we're helping our colleagues with hiring, they've very often got, deep teams in the Philippines too. But I still bring in, especially for strategy, a lot of our friends in the space to help me with different things that I'm working on. And I want them to collaborate with our Filipino team members, and I want them to build a relationship with them. And I want the team in the Philippines to feel like they could ask their counterparts in the US questions and they're going to get the support they need. So, there's some intentionality that's needed if you want to have that kind of team, but it's really not that hard, and it pays off big time.
Absolutely. And like, I think it was Emma Rainville who told me about this, but I'm curious, like how you also kind of introduced this is, the growth and training side. So like you're having the teams kind of integrate and talk and work together and collaborate. Do you also do that? Like she does, I think, cross training where, and I've had a couple clients do this too, where like one of them will, teach a session on what is their expertise and things like that. So they get a chance to really like, ask those questions and learn from each other, but also just kind of growth opportunities. Like how do you cultivate growth in your teams?
That's actually, I don't do it quite like that. And it's a great idea. And of course, Emma would have a lot of great ideas.
Yeah, she's good.
But we do a lot of development and growth. Like when someone comes on the team, for example, if we're hiring someone to do media buying for us, we have a framework that we run for that. And a lot of training that's existing. And I have everyone go through it. If they're going to, you can hire writers in the Philippines. I wouldn't hire a writer, for like a sales page necessarily, but there's so much writing that needs to be done, and you can find great writers over there. But I put them through a lot of like Stefan Georgi's stuff and, just other people's training that I've accumulated. We have what we call the training vault, where there's just a lot of continuing education. For my designer right now, we're going to start using Figma for our landing pages, for her to do the designs in. And we just went out and bought a Figma course. I want her to take the course and really be understanding a lot of UX, UI principles that are an important part of design, conversion stuff that's an important part of design that we found in a couple of courses that we picked up for her. So, even though she does a pretty good job with it, I've actually developed her for over a year. She used to kind of suck at landing pages, but she's gotten really good. But I'll put people through additional training and they love it. The team members that we hire just love it because the training that I have is very, very expensive for them. They wouldn't be able to afford it on their own. And they love the opportunity to learn and grow. So we are always doing things like anytime that I'm taking on something new or starting a new initiative, the way that I balance, and this is really valuable for anyone that's like, how do you juggle like what to hire in a place like the Philippines? Like, what can I hire? Because you can hire a whole lot of roles there. Like we hire bookkeepers from the Philippines. We hire media buyers. We hire YouTube video editors, like things that you think this is a high skill position. But the secret is establishing strategy for the business. For any of my businesses, I bring in my counterparts to help me put the strategy and framework together that I'm going to hire into for the rest of the team for execution. So for strategy, I don't cut any corners and I spend the money I need to spend, right? I bring in great talent. We have a lot of great talent in our space. Some right here on the call with us right now that'll be listening to this. Those people, when it comes to strategy, that's who I bring in. When it comes to execution, I hire almost all execution in the Philippines, but I bring them into a framework that's been put together with a really great strategist. So if someone called me up and said, Misty, I want you to recruit for me a media buyer, we don't have a media buying program, and this is an area I want to get into, I would say, I'm not going to hire that for you in the Philippines. Yeah. Because they need to actually put a great program together. And I don't feel confident that I'm going to source the right thing for them in the Philippines. So my advice would be something along the lines of find someone here that's really good, that will consult with you, that will help you put this program together, help you put your workflows together, will help train whoever you hire, and will provide accountability maybe for 3 to 6 months for this person, right? Make the investment in building this program and then go hire the talent in the Philippines that's going to come in and get trained to work this program and be accountable. That works all day long. If someone called me up and they already had an established media buying program and they just needed more hands on deck, I would hire that role in the Philippines in a heartbeat, right? So that's a really great way when you're thinking about, hiring and building out teams. And I need to save on this payroll nut. It can get really expensive when you start adding a lot of people to the team. You can hire a lot of execution in the Philippines, but I personally don't hire strategy in the Philippines. If you naturally are the strategist for the team, like for my teams, I can do a lot of the strategy myself. Then I'm putting the strategy together, and then I'm creating the workflows and bringing someone in. So it's important to know on your teams, like, what are they going to be accountable for, and what can they be accountable for successfully? So.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I really like the strategy in US, and then a lot of the execution in the Philippines, especially when you're looking at like certain agencies that are growing in a way where maybe they just need some junior media buyers to, pushing buttons and creating things, but having somebody, a lot of them have somebody who's overseeing, those team members, and also creating that strategy and kind of keeping everyone in line. So I think that that's a really good point, is the execution doesn't have to, everybody's already kind of working on thin margins for the most part, and the execution doesn't have to eat up everything, but you can still work with top-notch strategists, and you can still work with people overseeing the execution to make sure the consistent, strategy is there, and also you're getting what you want. So I think that's really cool. And the training vault too. I love that.
Yeah. I think the importance of leadership is undervalued on our teams. I see it on a lot of people's teams. You have your one primary person at the top, and they build these organizations and they're struggling to scale. I have a client recently that has a $5 million business, and she's struggling to scale. And I look across her organization and she doesn't really have leaders. Leadership is so important. You're so much better strategically going out and finding the great leaders and paying for it if you have to. You can hire good leadership in the Philippines, by the way, too. But that's, sometimes it just makes more sense to find someone here that's going to the events, that really knows our landscape, and then build out the support and the execution from the Philippines. So just kind of change. A lot of times it's hard to justify that, 6-figure salary for someone, because your payroll net is so high with all the other roles that you need on the team. You can't run your business without these roles. But if you take the roles, this execution roles, and you hire most of those in the Philippines or similar, other place, Mexico or, whatever, Philippines is just my particular jam, then it frees up dollars so that you can bring in the higher level talent that you need. It can be life-changing. I mean, I've had clients that are like, oh my God, they look at the people that are the highest producers in the company. I can get support for each one of these people for a few $100s a month. And now I'm doubling their capacity for output. It's interesting when you just start playing with the org chart a little bit and working with the numbers, what you can do by properly building out a support team using offshore talent. Like, you can really stretch your dollars and give yourself a little buffer and margin. So it's just not so stressful all the time, having to constantly, hit it big, scale big, something happens and things aren't converting anymore. And now you've got a major cash crunch across the organization that's really painful. So, being smart about how you're building your team can really make a difference in the quality of life you're experiencing along the way, and the stress load that you're carrying as the leader.
I mean, I think that's huge. That stress load. And it's not just you, like your stress load as you, the leader, but it's also the leadership and of any of the strategists that you're hiring. So like working with executioners like this also opens it up so you can work with fractional, which also frees up some budget.
Yeah.
So you can work with fractional people. They also have more time and energy to focus on the big picture, the strategy. Because like when you're in the weeds, I find this a lot with talent. I'm curious what your thoughts are, is that I see a lot of times when people are really in the weeds on something and, they're technically hired to be the strategy or the CMO or the CRO or all these pieces. But what they end up doing is getting themselves so bogged down that they stopped innovating and they stopped bringing ideas to the table because they know they have to implement those. And so when you do the actual system,
it's a big mistake.
It's huge.
Yeah. People do that. It's such a mistake. Like you almost have to think like, am I hiring you to be a pilot to fly the plane and look at things at 30,000 feet? Am I hiring you at 10,000 feet? Am I hiring you to look through a microscope and get your work done. You got to think about what kind of focus the person that you're hiring needs. What are the optics that you want them to have on the business? What are the expectations of where they're taking the business? And don't expect them, if their job is to drive the bus, don't expect them to tinker with whatever's under the hood. If they're tinkering with what's under the hood, the bus isn't moving. Like it's not going anywhere, right? Because the person that's supposed to be driving the bus is tinkering with what's under the hood. It's a very common mistake, I think, that people make, especially as they start to scale. They start bringing in more expensive talent, but then they don't bring the support that person needs to be able to, strategize and stay in their role well. And then you feel, as a leader, as the person at the very top, you feel like, I'm paying all this money and I'm not seeing the growth that I want to see. And it's not because the people that you've hired necessarily can't hit the KPIs. It's because you've bogged them down with crap that has nothing to do with the KPIs you want them to be responsible for. So, we all, as we build businesses that grow and that are bigger and bigger, we kind of, as leaders, we have to learn, how to structure things properly on the team so people can be successful. And I sure made a lot of mistakes and got dragged behind a lot of buses. But what you're pointing out is a very common thing. You get paid a lot of money. And so then they just expect you to do everything, which is ridiculous. It's just not sustainable or workable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like you're supposed to be getting paid for insights and ideas and not just that, but like being able to see them through, but having the support to do that.
That's
and I just do want to mention, like the camera isn't working for some reason. We got a little error here. Thanks for pointing that out, Rob.
Let me just switch cameras.
Yeah, I guess while we're here, I do want to see if you're open to letting us kind of open up some questions from the group.
I would love it.
Get some insights. So anybody in here got some questions for Misty?
I'm curious what size companies you normally work like. I'm sure they vary, but sounds like you work with some pretty large companies. Can you kind of share what's a normal business you work with?
Well, on the recruiting side, there's all sorts of businesses that we work with. I'm personally minimally involved, meaning I'm having a conversation and helping people decide what they're going to hire. And then we provide support in that way. Like, okay, if you're hiring these roles, here's job descriptions, here's skills testing, we recommend that sort of thing. But my team does most of the execution on that. I do work with teams who want to build all this infrastructure that I'm talking about. I don't promote that I do it, but I do it because I'm busy.
Yeah. Oh,
I get a lot of joy out of it though. So most of the time when I'm coming in to help people with team stuff, it's $1 million business that's in some version of scale. I have worked with businesses that are a little bit smaller. Usually it's kind of a conversation of where are you at and do I think I can help,
Right.
And then I'm running my own businesses primarily now, including my partner's business, which is very different from direct response. But he's massively scaling right now. He's within the next probably two to 3 years, he's going to have a $5 million business. And right now he's at about $500,000. So it's going to be pretty massive growth. So
that's
it's a little
exciting.
it's outside the box of my wheelhouse, but really fun to do, especially because I love him and I want to support him. So I'm not like at this stage of my career, I actually don't actively look for clients to work with, but we're all friends. So stuff comes to me.
No, I 100% get it. I'm just curious. I'm always interested in like you and Michelle have complete opposite skill sets from me. I'm like, fucking ADHD marketer. I can't even remember to fucking wipe my ass. I need people like you in my life. So I'm always
I'm
always keeping you
there's plenty of
folks in
things
mind.
though that I could say, here's what I'm really good at, but I have to have these other people. I think that's why the concept of team and really mastering team is so important, because the reality is you can't grow these businesses on your own. I can't, none of us can. So who are we as individuals? That's one of the reasons I love human design, because you get to see how you're wired to get things done. But who are we as individuals, and in what context do we do our very best work? And then once we're clear on that, then we can create that all the time, So I love that I have a skill set that for me is really fun. And I know it makes a big contribution in organizations, and it was very hard won. You guys have heard a little bit of my trauma, my business trauma. But I think we all really need each other, and just figuring out, how do we create these teams that are synergistic, where everyone gets what they need, and, all the bases are covered. It's really it's the Rubik's Cube, of our work in this industry. So
This is, I mean, I am making my freelance career is doing better than ever, but at the same time, I'm been trying to kind of get an offer off the ground, and what I've realized is I cannot do this by myself.
you can't,
And I sure as
especially getting an
hell,
offer off the ground, dude.
oh my
Whenever I
God.
hear Stefan say things like copywriters just need to become offer owners, I'm like, we don't even have a good education program in our industry to teach people really how to do that. It is probably a gaping hole opportunity for someone. But building an offer is,
The problem is, like, I know how to
actually-
come up, I know what a good offer is, like a good offer. Now it's the manage the ops side. This is what I'm trying to say.
yeah.
Like the ops side, and that's why I'm like, I just cannot do
Well, I'm
this.
happy to, if you need different workflows and stuff, Rob, just hit me up. I'm happy to share workflows and stuff with you. Like if there's an area that you're like just trying to figure out, that's one thing that has been really helpful to a lot of my friends and clients, is like, just tell me the steps that someone needs to do so I don't have to figure it out.
There you go.
It can be really valuable. And I would say, when you're talking to colleagues who are doing it well, like someone like Emma or whatever, I would
Mhm.
sweet talk her. Can you just help me with the workflow for this? Like, how much do I need to pay you? Because it is worth its weight in gold, because otherwise you figure it out by getting drugged behind the truck. And
Yeah.
that can be so, so, so costly, especially if it temporarily derails, a launch or something. So yeah.
Totally. Well, it was great seeing you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, good to see you too. We're coming out to Utah, maybe in September, but for sure for snowboarding. So we'll be hitting you up.
Hope to see you. Tell Roderick I said hi.
I will.
Yeah, I think that's super helpful and very kind of you to share those workflows. Like that's
Yeah.
a huge thing. Thank you.
Yeah, happy to.
Anyone else have any questions they want to ask? Got Misty here.
Going once.
Hey guys, my Tracy here. My big
Tracy.
challenge is, I understand everything you're saying. It sounds fantastic, but it's really hard to apply when everybody's freelance contractors.
It's very hard. And let me tell you, this is another reason why I like building teams out of the Philippines.
Yeah.
For real, because it is, when you have a bunch of freelancers and contractors and all the laws that we have here that keep you from being able to like require them to use your project management system and a work schedule and all of that, it's brutal. It's brutal. I will never, I used to have teams like that. So I know exactly what it's like. I will never, ever do it again. It's so much better when you can create some structure and a framework and hold people accountable. So I think bite the bullet and make those people employees, or start offshoring.
Gotcha.
It's so life-changing. Otherwise you're constantly in herd cats mode. You can't push accountability down with those kind of people. You can't. You're legally not able to. You can't put the mechanisms in place to be able to do that. And it's a shame, and it just is what it is. This is our government being so insistent that they control taxation that they make it hard to do business, and it sucks.
Gotcha.
I empathize.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And Tracy, you can, I don't know if you guys have ever tried doing the offshore thing, but
I have my own VA is from Colombia. And she's fantastic. And I can work with her. My challenge is that I do PM for so many different clients, and they all have contractors. So I actually like what the idea that's popped into my head now is I need to walk in with my own team.
yeah.
Where
And you could structure that fairly affordably. I'd be happy to grok that with you if you want to hit me up and we can just chat more about it. But yeah, if you had your own team that was executing, it'd be very affordable for them. They would save so much money.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have to deal with all of that. That's definitely an idea that's worthy of some exploration.
Thank you.
Yeah, I could even help you map out like what, if you wanted to hire from the Philippines, what it would cost. If you go to my website, marketectmedia.com, I actually have, one of the stripes has like it's basically 3 groups of roles and the US range of what you would pay for them for full time. So that's a starting point. But if you wanted to talk more, I'd be happy to.
Very cool. Thank you.
Any other questions? No one's curious about anything we said, Michelle.
I think they're all just mind blown. It's a lot of good information. I hope I
Yes.
wasn't too loud. I was taking a lot of notes here. So I was like, I want to write about this. I want everybody to know how good this was.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Well,
if
it's been
anybody
a
else
pleasure
have-
spending time with everyone today.
Oh, Isaac just popped in. I had one earlier. Oh, have you found a best means of paying people in the Philippines?
Yes.
One thing
Veem.
what's that?
Veem.
Veem. Okay.
Yeah. VEEM.
Okay.
We used to do PayPal, but as the team grew, those PayPal fees got really expensive. Not to mention PayPal can be kind of Nazi. I'm sure we've all heard the stories from our peers. So we do Veem. You need bank accounts, your bank account, their bank account. It's a very affordable monthly fee and the tiny transaction fee. It doesn't matter how much you're sending. So I love it. We initiate and it takes, depending on someone's bank, it could take a couple days to hit their account, but we just prepare the team. Like we initiate payroll on Friday and then they'll get it the next week. Yeah, I know, Rob. Yeah, I know.
Nobody wants to use PayPal. I mean, the amount of charges that they take, like from both sides, it's just
Yeah,
ridiculous.
it's brutal.
It's
It's
rough.
they're taking advantage of the convenience and the ignorance, really. Because once you actually look into it, you're like, whoa. I mean, literally, I was paying hundreds of dollars every pay period I didn't need to pay.
Yeah.
Veem is better. Listen, if anyone has heard of Wise and wants to try Wise, they were a pain in the ass.
Really?
Yes. I set up my account. Everything looked good. Had the team log in for payroll like 4 days later. This is when we were first switching. The account was shut down. They don't notify me that the account was shut down. It was just shut down. And then to get the account up, it's like a dog and pony show. You got to take pictures holding numbers and send it in, and maybe they'll open, it took forever. And then it came back up and then it went down again. We set it up for Roderick too. Roderick was able to send money one time. And then the next time he logged in 2 weeks later, the account was shut down and they don't notify you. So I don't recommend Wise. I just feel like if there's a problem and I got a notification, we handle it, but you can't like be finding this out the day you're sending payroll that the account is shut down. It's just like not workable. So Veem has been awesome and I recommend it to all my clients and no one ever has an issue.
I'll have to try that out because I've been using Wise. I haven't run into those issues yet, but I don't do it at a mass scale yet. Like I've only got a few people that I work through on there.
Yeah.
And
are you sending money internationally?
mhm.
Well, then I don't know. Yeah. Friends told me when I was asking around about it, some people said, why is it such a pain or whatever? And I just wanted to try it for myself because apparently I like getting drugged behind the truck myself.
You do. You like learning those lessons. That's how they really
I get
sink in.
it.
I get that
No.
way too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I get it. Cool. Well, this was really awesome and really helpful. I really enjoyed this. Yeah. Anybody else have any more questions to ask Misty today?
I'll read this comment from Isaac. Particularly in the US, there's a lot of stigma against hiring outside the US and taking jobs away from American citizens and such. My perspective on that, and this is because I know a lot of y'all and I know what goes on behind the scenes. For a lot of us, to make our businesses successful, we can't do it with the high labor costs in the US. Like it's just not workable at scale. I mean, how many people do you know of that are working so hard and even have $1 million businesses, but they're not keeping jack crap, So my partner's Filipino, so I can kind of be like, this is people, but I started working with Philippine people before he and I started dating. So, I just let it go. I mean, I definitely hire our colleagues and peers for things that they're good at. And frankly, most of the people I know don't want to do the day-to-day execution, not in our space. They want to do the strategy part and kind of be in and out and collect their paycheck. I just let it go and don't worry about it. I feel like my job and responsibility is to build a business that's successful, that contributes. There's a lot of mission in both of my businesses. Roderick's business for me is total mercenary, but like that's what we do. And it's not like we're the only ones in our space considering doing it. Big, huge Fortune 500 companies have entire divisions that are outsourced to other countries. And the reason that they're doing that is because the economics of it make more sense. So things are just changing in the world, and this is just part of the change. And I just would tune out the noise.
I think,
Yeah.
and I also want to mention like what you said earlier is of combining the two, like working with the strategy in the high level, even overseeing, so that they can do multiple people from, US, but then have execution for them. Because that execution side is something that bogs people down and stops those ideas. And we need those ideas. We need, new innovation and strategies, new ways to like bring the money in. And if working with an execution team overseas is what actually gets things moving, I think that's really valuable. So
Yeah. And you can, just to Tracy's point, you can actually hold them accountable. I had a team of, when I had my big burnout, they were all people, most of them in Austin, but not all that. They were all over the country. But trying to figure out how to create more accountability was rough because you're just so limited because they're all contractors. So, it's not really a workable way to build our kind of business. And I think I just don't resist that. I just kind of see it for what it is and accept it. And how do I do this successfully? And how do I do it where I'm not overwhelmed and stressed and burning out? How do I do it where I'm actually making a living for my family? I can take care. Sometimes there have been times in my career where it feels like, well, I'm taking care of the team, but I'm not taking care of my family, because it's just so expensive. And you go through, whatever is creating a cash flow crunch. And at the top, you're feeling it. You're the one that has to make it work for everyone. So yeah.
I think it's a good point. It's difficult to rein in those the contractors that get a little riley and kind of all over, and they want it their way and on their time. And it's just like, aside from just not working with them anymore, which, I often do. If you're not going to deliver on time, I'm not going to work with you.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's not worth all of our rest of our hassle and time. But there are some that I've worked with that, they deliver well, they deliver good quality and on time and all that. And then that's fine. But in like minimal back and forth, that's great. But the people who need constant like hand holding, or the ones who deliver late or promise something and then it comes later, or they have like a million things, it gets frustrating. And the whole point, like you said, like you're taking care of your family, not just financially, but emotionally. And if you can't be there for them emotionally because you're there for your team or you're overextended because it's too hard to wrangle a team and chase all those cats, it just becomes daunting.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I think this is part of the spiritual work, the deeper spiritual work that we have to do as leaders, especially if you're prone to be a leader. Like some people kind of get thrust into leadership. And so they're a little better about creating the help they need and asking for the support they need. Men are better at it than women for sure. There's like kind of a natural inborn mechanism for men of like, if I'm going to take that responsibility on, am I going to get the support I need? And for women, I think sometimes that question's missing. And so we put ourselves in situations where the support that we need isn't there, but we've got to consider what we're doing to ourselves when we limit our options to conditions that aren't in our highest good and burn us out. It's brutal.
I think, and like back to what you said about the masculine and feminine energy, it's like understanding those. I know Allison Armstrong, like you said, has a lot of great work on that, but understanding those and how to utilize those energies that we all have within us, and how to approach that, but also recognizing the limitations. Like women have a harder time asking for support because they're typically the supporters and they have more of that feminine energy. So recognizing that and stopping it before it becomes a problem that burns you out.
For sure.
Play with those energies.
I wish for all of my girlfriends to start developing that barometer of you deserve and you need and require support. It's just, we don't even think of it. Like it just doesn't occur to us until we're just, a shell of ourselves, that we're not getting the support we need. So I think there's a wound there in the feminine that really needs to be healed. And I've certainly put a lot of effort into it over the last decade of my life, especially. And my niece, Hannah, who's 18, just came to Austin to live with us and go to college. And everything I'm doing, the way I'm living my life every single day has a totally different meaning because she's watching it all. She's reflecting things back to me. And I'm asking myself, okay, am I modeling for her what I needed to have modeled for me when I was her age and didn't get that? There's a lot we have to think about as women, but we also have a tremendous capacity to give, to organize, to, look at Tracy. She's hired by everyone to manage all their projects and get things done. I mean, it's the female brain and that diffuse awareness that does that really, really well. But we do ourselves a disservice when we don't consider what we need to be successful and be happy and not burn out delivering. So
We can't do it all ourselves.
yeah, for sure. We totally cannot do it all ourselves.
Absolutely. I know it's something I struggle with, and working to find that balance is so important. So
Yeah,
keep doing it, Tracy. You are amazing at what you do. So
she is. She's the queen.
yeah, she is.
I need a nap.
It's been really awesome having you here. Like, I've really, really enjoyed this. I've gained a lot, and I'm super grateful that we got to connect and that you came on to this. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I've loved it. It's good to see some familiar faces too. And if anyone ever needs help or support, just reach out. I love supporting people in our community. Gives me a lot of joy. And if you need to hire out of the Philippines, I might be able to help with that too.
Thank you, Misty. This was great. Thank you, Michelle, for organizing this.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, everybody. I appreciate it. And thank you for sharing with us, Misty. This was really great. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Have an awesome day, everybody.
Have a great weekend, y'all.
We'll see y'all.